And yes, pardon how crude this is. Oh my. The Holocaust was completed. There was a faint, barely perceptible movement of the water as the flesh flow from one end urged its way toward the drain at the other. With little ripples that were hardly the shadows of waves, the laden mattress wove irregularly down the pool. A small gust of wind that scarcely corrugated the surface was enough to disturb its accidental course with its accidental burden. The touch of a cluster of leaves revolved its slowly tracing like the leg of a transit, a thin red circle in the water. It was after we started with Gatsby toward the house that the gardener saw Wilson's body a little way off in the grass. The Holocaust was complete. Just a paragraph and a half, really, that summarizes a theme in one of the greatest pieces of literature in the 20th century. It is currently 2:03 p.m. right now, October 30th, and I'm going to be analyzing one of the themes and quotes to one of the greatest pieces of literature, with 2 movies based off of it, featuring Leonardo DiCaprio, one of the greatest pieces of literature in the 20th century, also known as The Great Gatsby. I'm not here to talk about the entire summary of the book, but yes, a theme based off of a quote at the end, with the spoiler alert, Gatsby's death. Now, at the start of this video, I read to you the quote and even showed it to you, and the main point that sticks out from that quote is the mention of the word Holocaust. Now, when you hear the phrase Holocaust, you probably think Jews in Poland during the Second World War, or during Europe, but we'll think to Poland to start. And while that is one of the most notable Holocausts and one of only 2 ever truly carried out modern Holocausts to happen in world history, that and the Armenian Genocide in the early 20th century during the First World War, a Holocaust is not the eradication of Jews, but to eradicate in general, or to attempt to eradicate. As you can see right here, destruction or slaughter on a mass scale. Now, I did mention that there was a theme with this, and that theme happens to be loss, as a great big deal of the book bases itself around the fact that Gatsby once had Daisy and now has lost her. And a big plot of the book is Gatsby trying to get back at Daisy. However, his dreams are unrealistic. Once Gatsby dies, Myrtle dies, and Wilson dies, the theme of loss is pushed to a T, as now Nick Carraway has lost everyone around him that he seemed to care about and seemed to draw interest to. But most importantly, Tom Buchanan and Daisy both lost their love of... Daisy lost the true love of her life, Tom Buchanan lost his mistress, and Wilson. Another notable part of this quote is the descriptors used by F. Scott Fitzgerald, as a common theme around this book is how in-depth he would go with his descriptions without getting too over the top, like, let's say, a book like The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. To sidetrack a little bit, a notable color and phrase that was used to describe would be the green light, as it was a sign of hope, but at the same time, when it went out, you realized that the hope was gone. It was unrealistic hope. The quote goes in detail to describe the water in the pool that Gatsby was murdered in. The dripping of water, and eventually blood, was used heavily to push the point of how horrible this atrocity was. Also, of course, at the end, to show over the grass that Wilson was also dead, and of course the Holocaust was finished. I don't know if my point has been pushed out yet, but the Holocaust is a very important part of this quote, and a very important part of this theme. This entire quote can be helped to use to describe an entire section of the book, and the fact of how much loss really happens, especially to our characters Daisy and to Tom Buchanan, and eventually leading for Nick Carraway to decide to move back out west. They weren't the whole reason, but they helped him want to make that decision.